Hello everybody, my name is Alex and welcome to a video where I'm going to talk about 6 of the biggest things we just learned about Crash 4. Now, over the last few days, there's been a lot of content dropped for the new Crash game. We've seen levels, all that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd pick out 6 of the biggest things, so maybe if you've watched it all and just want to recap and remind yourself about everything we've seen, or maybe if you've not watched it all and just want to learn about some of the big things this next Crash installment is going to introduce, that you could get that information pretty quickly. So let's dive in. So point number 1 is on the quantum maths. Now what quantum maths are going to do in Crash 4 is give you special abilities. So we already learnt about the kind of time freezing one, we already learnt about the anti-grav mask, but we now know about the third mask called Lani Loli. Now, different objects in the world, whether that be obstacles or crates, can be phased in or out with this mask. It looks like there is sort of 2 worlds to phase in and out. So whilst the objects of one world are materialised, the objects from a second world are transparent with a blue outline. So you can basically just pass straight through them if they are transparent. This means that if there's an obstacle in your way, you're going to want to make sure it's not there, you're going to want to make sure it's transparent, but if there's a crate in a different phase, you're going to want to phase that in. So it's going to be quite interesting how difficult it is just to phase in the right world and the right objects at the right time. It seems like this power is going to be most challenging and fun to use when riding the vines, where things are already quite frantic due to players having to move quickly in direction. You know, whether you're riding on top or bottom, you've got to make them decisions quickly. So then putting this in there as well is going to make that quite complicated and make the gameplay quite in-depth. The second thing I want to mention is that we have now seen a good amount of footage from the level's Dino Dash, which is a dinosaur themed level and which will see players face off against both dinosaurs and a ton of venom. It looks like there's an awful lot of venom. And we've also seen a lot of footage both from the perspective of Crash and of Cortex from Snow Way Out, which is basically a level filled with snow and ice. Now I've got to say what we have seen from these levels looks absolutely stunning. I've said it a few times, Toys for Bob are really bringing a great feel and look to this game, and I'm sure as we get sort of closer to release, we're going to see more and more levels. So what we've seen so far looks cool. Definitely go and check out the levels if you've not seen them, but yeah, looking really good so far. Point number 3, and this is sort of linked to the gameplay, but this is that this game is not gonna be easy. This is not going to be a really easy experience, like just aimed at getting new players involved. No, this is gonna be quite tough. So judging by the latest gameplay we have seen of Dino Dash, from Crash's perspective and also from Cortex's perspective, which has different sorts of challenges, I'll come on to that later, it's going to be difficult. I think you're going to have to really time your jumps right. You're going to have to engage your brain probably more than you did in the Insane trilogy. So it's going to be hard. The platforming's very detailed, very in-depth, and it's going to be very challenging, especially if you're playing on classic mode. The fourth thing we have learned very recently is that there's now a landing cursor. Now, one of the most frustrating parts of the Insane trilogy was controlling where Crash landed. Now, though judging this obviously got easier the more you played the game, like if you're a pro, it wasn't really an issue. On levels such as the trickiest bits of the high road, not knowing exactly where Crash was going to land could quickly become a nightmare and made playing some of those levels incredibly frustrating, especially for players who didn't have a ton of experience. To address this, Toys for Bob seem to have added a sort of landing cursor, so you'll know exactly where Crash is going to land, and it's going to make those narrow planks far easier to land on and stuff like that. Now, for some people, I wonder if this will be kind of a problem, like, you know, the classic Crash games didn't have this, so I am thinking, will you be able to toggle this on and off? That'll be interesting to find out. Point number 5, and these next 2 points are the 2 I'm probably most excited about over everything on this list. So point number 5 is that Cortex has very different moves to Crash. He has a single jump instead of Crash's double jump. Crash is basically going to work like he did in Warped. And he also has a forward dash to allow him to cover greater distances. Now, from the footage I'm hopefully going to have on screen, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, from the gameplay that I have seen, and I'm sure you have as well, this makes it look like Cortex is going to be a bit more challenging to play as compared to Crash. I think this because the forward dash looks quite tricky to control, and obviously there's not much time to kind of reset where you're going to land with the forward dash. So I think that looks quite tricky. And also, lots of us, well, most of us have played a lot of the Insane trilogy, so Crash's moveset's sort of just, muscle memory. You know what you're doing, it'll take a bit of time to adapt, but we know Crash's moveset from memory. But learning a brand new moveset and sort of moving between the two, moving from Crash's moveset to Cortex's moveset, but and probably back and forth as well, I think that's going to be pretty tricky. So I'm looking forward to seeing just how well I cope with Cortex's new moveset, but I think it's going to be tough. Okay, the sixth and final point I want to mention in this video is that Cortex, as well as this different moveset he's got to Crash in regards to jumping and dashing forward, he's also got his ray gun, and his ray gun can change enemies into either a stone platform or a bounce platform depending on what the situation requires. Now, making players choose what platform they need to progress fits quite well with everything we've seen from Cortex so far. Like, in this latest gameplay, Cortex has definitely been confirmed as a character which is going to take a lot of puzzle making to get through his levels. Or sorry, puzzle solving to get through his levels. Like, when you play as Crash, it's very much, you're addressing those platforming elements, those traditional platforming gameplay bits. But with Cortex, you're going to have to be constantly thinking about, how am I going to get to this crate? Is it best to have this as a bounce pad or just a solid pad? Things like that. So Cortex, not just from having his ray gun and that's abilities, but his overall gameplay, it is very much puzzle solving, and I love that they've differentiated it from the standard platforming to obviously keep the gameplay more fresh and more interesting. Okay, so there is a lot more I could have talked about in this video, but what have you picked up over the last few days? What do you think is more important? Did I mention it here, or perhaps did I not mention it here? Let me know down in the comments, and I will try my best to get back to you. Thank you so much for watching this video today. If you want to see more Crash Bandicoot videos on the channel, make sure you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see another one of our videos, check out the video in the box below. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Alex, and I will see you in another video soon.